We are still worried about Alphino's condition and return to the Rising Stones to see if any information has sprung up about him. He hasn't spoken to anyone since the first report he sent. A herald arrives in the Rising Stone to tell us that they want the scions of the 7th Dawn to be present in a meeting that is going to happen soon. At least we can use this as a distraction from worrying about Alphino, or so we thought. Thancred has been out spying in on the Garleans. He has just returned to the Alamegan quarter, and he has crucial information to tell us. The successful uprising in Doma and Alamigo has inspired other provinces to do the same, but instead they failed. The Dalmaskins had their capital destroyed by the Emperor. He made an example of them, which has caused the other provinces to abandon their resistance. But some Garleans heard news of Doma's prisoner exchange. They still believe that the Empire will be willing to negotiate one day. This is all thanks to the shinobi spreading word of our success. The Alliance is supplying any resistances with material to help them continue their fight. The support is being led by Kane Senna and Nanamo. They have seen what the Empire has done to those under their oppression. As for the Garlean motherland itself, the Populares have suffered a setback. Word has spread that Doma has summoned a primal. Their voice is being drowned out by those who seek retribution for what Doma did. Zenos has recovered enough to a point where he is able to tour the provinces in person, putting fear into the hearts of people who would be resistance fighters. If he is able to walk around in plain sight and nobody suspects him, then it is as we presumed. An Ascian is wearing his skin. But nothing he has mentioned thus far is the reason he rushed home to report to us. It was because he had never heard of a Doman emissary entering the capital. Thancred believes that he never reached his destination. On his link pearl for a moment, he was able to connect with Alphino. He couldn't make out every word, except for one. The burn. Something must have happened to him whilst in the wasteland on the edge of Othard. Without delay, we make way for the burn. We decide to pay Hien a visit, as he may know how to navigate to the burn. But first, Y'shtola is also in Doma. She has been studying the Aether here along with the treasures the Kojin worship, but she knows we haven't come all this way to hear about that. We tell her what Thancred just told us, and she decides to join us in the search. Now we move on to getting an audience with Lord Hien in the Kien Khan. He will give us his full cooperation in searching for Alphino, even if his trail leads into the burn. The burn is on the way to Garlemald, but it is no place to stop. Therefore, it is by no chance that they did. They must have been forcefully stopped somehow. Yugiri will seize us the fastest yawl she can find, and will await us on the overlook. Using the yawl, we fly into the burn, but a sandstorm blocks our investigation. It is unsafe to fly, and Hien calls out to us to land anywhere we can, and wait out the storm. We find a nearby cave, and land in there. We fight through the burn, and defeat a mist dragon. Upon its defeat, it removes the mist that blocked our vision and allows us to see an Imperial airship. Yugiri and Alisaie have already inspected it and discovered that it is the ship which bore Alphino away. There may still be clues nearby. We should split up and search the area. We find the bodies of Imperials along with the war machina they were using. These soldiers were not ordinary soldiers, but the Emperor's personal guard. It explains why all the casualties were Garlean. They were fighting their own kind. The Emperor was the one who orchestrated it. We do not know if Alphino was taken captive. Even if he was, he is more than capable of looking after himself. Instead, we should return to Doma. Either way, Alphino is long gone. The shinobi will take over the search from here. We ride the yawl back home. While Hien was gone, a foreign emissary had arrived to speak with him. He asks that the scions be present in the meeting, as their presence should impress them. Maybe that would be true, but the emissary is none other than Lys. What is she doing here? The Eorzean Alliance has a request for Hien, but before she talks about that, they told her that we were out looking for Alphino. We tell her what we found in the burn. She is hopeful that he has escaped. We must continue searching, and Hien will not stop until he is found. He set off on this journey as an emissary of Doma. He now holds himself responsible for his safe return. There is one thing Lys doesn't understand. Didn't the Emperor give the Populares the ability to arrange the prisoner exchange? Why would he sabotage his own mission? The personal guard answered to everyone in the royal family, including the Crown Prince. Asahi proclaimed that a Doman citizen had summoned a primal, which caused the negotiations to fail. It's that same lie which has spread throughout the city. They must not have known that the prisoner exchange even took place. The information is being manipulated by the Ascian who is controlling Zenos. They truly are servants of chaos. Their meddling has cost Doma its chance at peace. We have to proceed under the assumption that their treaty is no longer a thing. Back to the topic at hand, what did Lys come here for? Alamigo has agreed to join the Eorzean alliance. To make it official, the leaders of the nations are holding a meeting, and they are hoping that Hien could come along too. The alliance aims to work more closely together in the future, as they hope to keep the Garleans in check. By coordinating our efforts in the east and the west, they may be able to discourage the Garleans from committing their forces to a single front. Hien will go to the meeting, but he needs some time to attend to some pressing matters. These pressing matters he is talking about is the defenses of Doma. He doesn't want to leave his nation unguarded as he leaves for the meeting. Instead, he brings in his council to discuss how they should go about defending against an invasion. Hien has an idea. Doma only succeeded in winning her freedom because of the aid of others. He means to take the idea of the Eorzean alliance, but to do it here in Doma instead. He will reach out to Hingashi and Sui no Sato. Not only that, but he will reach out even further beyond to the people of Nangsha and Dalmasca. Maybe not all of them will answer his call, but they are all united in their desire for freedom. Even if some of them answer, it will be enough. If they could see what was at stake, cooperation between them wouldn't actually sound that far-fetched. In fact, it would be practical. Even Louis Swash strived to unite the city-states of Eorzea under one banner, so that they could rely on one another's strength for the battles to come. Alisaie is a little worried about the time it would take to do this. The Imperials are capable of using their airships to destroy this plan before it can even be set in motion. But Y'shtola happened to chance at some Allagan ruins. These ruins were identical to the ones which surrounded Aziz La. If you remember, a barrier surrounded Aziz La, and it was capable of keeping out an Agrias-class battleship. If there is some way to activate this barrier, we would be able to stop the Garleans' direct route into Doma. This would mean that they would need more fuel to go a scenic route, but the Garleans just destroyed Rabanastre, and with it, gone is their key Imperial refueling point. They don't have the means to operate outside of their region anymore. They have to go through the burn. However, we need to be forewarned. It will require a lot of energy to erect a barrier that surrounds the burn. Hien is unfazed. He says that he has a solution to this energy problem of ours in the Azim steppe, which would also grant him the perfect opportunity to speak with the Zayla tribes and discuss an alliance. With the meeting adjourned, we leave with Hien and Y'shtola to the Zim steppe. Alisaie will instead secure the aid of the Garlond Ironworks and use their expertise to make sure that the field generators are in good working condition. The first place we make for is Reunion. As it is Y'shtola's first time here, Hien wants to bring her to his favorite spot. It is the same hill we happened to find him on when we first met him here. He uses this time to explain to us why he has brought us here. During his time living here, he had heard many tales from the mole. One in particular goes as follows. In the distant past, when all seemed doomed, a wayfaring soul came onto the steppe. Venturing into the northern crag, he received of Nama a sliver of her essence, a shard of the shining moon, and with it clove the tainted land from the earth. The end thus averted, to these fields did the wayfaring soul return, and venturing once more into the northern crag, he buried the shard, and made unto the heavens an offering of blood. A tainted land cloven from earth, and an offering of blood into the heavens. This refers to the land of Aziz La and the lesser moon Dalamud. So if the tale is true, there is an artifact with the power sufficient to raise Azizlar into the heavens. If it exists, it would most certainly have enough power to erect a barrier around the burn. From here we go to the mole's home to ask if anything is known about the tale, and if she can raise the matter of an alliance with the rulers of the steppe. Cyrena tells us that in the mountains to the north, there is a cavern called the House of the Crooked Coin. Inside that cavern lies a pillar of stone, which holds the source of Nama's power. She agrees that an alliance is of great import, as if the Emperor decides to attack again, their lands will be razed to the ground. However, there are many who revere Nama, the Dusk Mother. Those pillars we are trying to tamper with are sacred and not to be disturbed. If we should proceed as we propose, there will be those in the steppe that will reject our alliance. Others will follow their example. Instead, she wants us to visit the House of the Crooked Coin and try to figure out a way to earn their blessing. At the House of the Crooked Coin, we can indeed see a gigantic stone structure. It was an artifact created by the Alligans to regulate the flow of aether. Y'shtola is communing with it and discerns that the amount of aether it has is more than enough to create our barrier. They must have used this structure to control the aether from here to the burn, allowing them to untether the land, turning it into Azizlar. But if we brought the flow back to the burn, not only would we be able to raise our wall, we would be able to restore life to the wasteland. Y'shtola is satisfied with the amount of aether being stored here and asks that we return to the mole. Cyrena believes that the best way to get what we want is to make the clan who worships Nama the most give us their blessing. That clan is the Dothal. If we can earn their consent, the other clans may see fit to believe it is right. We go out to meet with their Khatun Sadu, as we know the Dothal are fearless warriors who dance in the face of death. We wish to wield Nama's power to defend these lands, and she will allow this. However, for leaving the steppe behind to fight the men in iron, she would have something in return. A battle. With us. She wants a rematch, as the Battle of Nardum ended too quickly. This time she wants to face us alone, without distractions. If we defeat her, we shall have our Dothal allies. We await them outside the car, and begin to do battle with the Dothal. Though the battle has only just begun, it is unsurprisingly interrupted by Magnai and the Eorzean. Sadu mocks him and tells him to leave. She is busy. This instead infuriates him, making him go on and on about how the Eorzean are the leaders of all clans, and is displeased that a battle to determine the fate of the steppe is being waged without his blessing. Sadu tells him that his words are as wind from a horse's backside, but his axe sings more sweetly. Let her speak for you. Enraged, he draws his axe. Insolent child, she will learn her place. He is kept busy by Hien and Y'shtola, and we continue to battle with the Dothal. Eventually the battle concludes at both ends. We were victorious against the Dothal and the Eorzean. Sadu has never been so satisfied in defeat. It was a battle that would burn her soul and flesh to ash. The Dothal will lend their strength as promised. Nahama's power is ours to wield. The same goes for the Eorzean. We have been judged and found worthy. The sun shall answer our call. Thusly, we have gained the cooperation of two of the strongest clans in all of the steppe. We are about to leave until Magnai asks to know who Y'shtola is. He wonders if she could be his Nama. For a long time he has searched for his Nama, but eventually decided that maybe she never lived in the steppe. But he saw the way in which she shone on the battlefield. Her healing touch is the embodiment of the Dusk Mother's love. He asks her to look into his eyes. Could it be? However, Y'shtola declines his advances. She isn't interested, little son. Try again when he has become a man. Little? Sadu bursts out laughing. Little son, little son. She keeps pushing him further and further until he draws his weapon. A second battle is about to break out, but we don't have time for this. Instead, we leave them to their own devices and leave for the Mole Clan, as Cyrano waits for word of our success. We have earned the right to use Nama's power as we see fit. If your Stoller can make the Aether flow as planned, then all the Ironwork engineers have to do is control it. Now we return to the Pillar of Stone. Your Stoller communes with it. A white aether surrounds her. Suddenly the stone erupts in a purple aether. It is causing the wind to howl, and it begins shaking violently as a reaction to what she is doing. Eventually she finds a way in, and the aether surrounding the pillar disperses. It is done. She has returned the flow of aether back to the burn. Though we want to rest, with the aether returned, it is time we return to the Enclave, to tell Alisaie that we have succeeded in providing them with a power source. All that is left is for the Garlean Ironworks to do their thing. So much has been achieved in so little time. Lest we forget, there is a meeting we are all being asked to attend in the Alamegan Royal Palace. So without delay, we move to the Alamegan Royal Palace to have a meeting with the leaders of the Eorzean Alliance. The city-state of Alamigo has been formally welcomed into the Eorzean Alliance, something which all the people of Alamigo are glad to be a part of. Finally, they'll have a chance to fight with their brothers and sisters on the front line. They also welcome in new comrades. Hien introduces himself to the leaders, who was remembered for his last-minute aid during the siege of the Alamegan Royal Palace. He thanks them for inviting him. Imric tells him that it is them who should thank him for journeying so far, and who can forget about the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. Without the effort put forth by them, none of us would be here today. In times of great unrest, we have been their constant companions. We have not gathered all together in one place since the days of the Bloody Banquet. It was the day Rorban lost his arm and his freedom. He never thought he would be given a chance to represent his homeland in this council. He wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for the acts of Ugiri, Alphinuad, and us. It is sad that he could not be here with us today. Alisaie will do what she can to uphold the good work he did. Let us not dwell on the past. Instead, Nanamo asks Hien how things in the east currently stand. He speaks of what the Empire did to Rabanastre to scare off the other provinces. How the Empire seems to be readying itself to attack. The Empire will not so easily change its ways. If they decide to take back Doma and Alamigo, we would not be able to stop them, even with the 6 of us working together. Though we could be able to change the tide if we were able to find the correct path. Specifically, we need to target the Ascians. They are bringers of chaos who sow the seeds of despair among men. Whilst they remain, none shall know peace. We have a clear objective. The how of it is the problem. The Ascian is using Zenos' skin. How could we get close enough to even strike at him? Nobody can think of a plan until Thancred breaks the silence, telling them that it is time we copy our enemy's preferred tactic. Subterfuge. He proposes we dispatch the shinobi to Imperial territory. There they will spread the rumor that the Crown Prince is dead, and a servant of darkness walks around in his skin. The people may not believe it, but before his recovery, a rumor had already spread that Zenos had died. We don't necessarily care what the masses believe, as our true target will be creating an opening for rival factions within Garlemald to exploit, in an attempt to cause a war for succession, which had only ended until recently. There have been many individuals who want to seize the throne for themselves. These rumors will be too enticing to ignore. Thancred can lead the company's finest into Garlemald, and the shinobi are already spread throughout the provinces. They are all ready to act, as long as they give the word. They agree with the plan. Doing this may finally lead them to a chance at peace, so we may finally be able to lay down our weapons once and for all. It is a sound plan. Even we agree with it. What is happening? Our head is throbbing with pain. We can hear a voice. That way. Sorrow. Suddenly we notice the world around us has been turned black. Our vision is still blurry. The voice continues. History must be changed. Who is this talking to us? Ahead looms a calamity. Ahead looms light, expunging all form and life. Twin dooms, only you can forestall. Only you. Rawbarn calls out to us, and we can see that we are not the only ones currently hearing this voice. All of the Scions are. Let expanse contract, Eon become instant. Throw wide the gates that we may pass. Eventually that vision ends, if that even was a vision. It looks like the voices and pain stop for all of us, except Thancred collapses to the floor, unresponsive. Kane Senna commands everyone to bring him to a private chamber, have every healer be ready to receive him. We are gathered outside Thancred's room, speaking to a healer. He tells us that even though he seems stable, he is completely unresponsive. They could not identify the cause. There were no wounds, nor any trace of poison. That just makes it worse. At least before it happened, he gifted the Alliance with a course of action. We can only nurture his plan now, so that he may see the fruits of his labor when he wakes up. However, the matter of the mysterious voice cannot be forgotten. Khan A. Senna wants to know exactly what happened. We heard a mysterious voice, and it was accompanied by a severe headache. It is almost as if something was tugging at our mind. But for us, the room went black. It was almost as if we were in the ethereal sea. Our testimony confirms her suspicion. What we experienced is named Cold. It is a spell which rips soul from flesh. When she examined Thancred, she tried to reach out to him, but couldn't find his soul. The reason as to why Thancred must have been taken first is because he is more sensitive to Aether ever since Laha Brea possessed him. The owner of the voice called to our souls, and in doing so caused us pain. The destination of the calling is unknown, but whoever is doing it must be remarkably strong. To call one person takes a lot from someone, let alone multiple. We need to find out who is causing this to happen. Maybe we should ask Urian J. He is usually quite capable when it comes to the unknown. When talking to him on our link pearl, it seems like he too heard the voice. This means that the Scions are being targeted. Urian J wants us to come to the Rising Stones to discuss what we know, and maybe find an answer to our problem. Indeed, he too experienced the pain, but he couldn't understand the words he heard. We do not know enough about what is happening. It is hard to say who is responsible at this point. The only people who are out to get us are the Ascians. Before Urian J makes any speculation, he'd like to examine Thancred personally. Just before we leave for Alamigo, Y'shtola wants to talk about the localized reduction in Aether density around the world. In every corner of the realm, there are places where the Aether has grown thin. At first they assumed it was primal summoning, but found out it wasn't. The same thing is happening all around the world at the same time. It warrants an investigation. Urian J will make note of it and get to it after. The voice. It calls to him once more. He grips his head in pain. He falls to his knees. Eventually Y'shtola starts to hear the voice, and finally it moves to both Alisaie and us. The voice echoes through our mind. Only you. Only you. Throw wide the gates. When it ends, it seems like our soul is still attached to our body. But as for the others, Urian J and Y'shtola had been successfully called, just like Thancred, and they are just as unresponsive as he was. With these two gone, we can now count 4 of our allies being out of commission. It is only us and Alisaie remaining. Our chances of finding a solution to this problem seems grim, but there are many scholars in Eorzea. There is bound to be someone who is able to find out what ails them and how to save them. Alisaie is trying to stay positive after everything that has occurred. She organized a personal matter in Limsa Lominsa. In fact, she'd be glad to have us come along with her. When in Limsa Lominsa, we see that she wanted to meet the young kobold, Gabu, who is still just existing ever since his parents were killed to summon Titan. He still won't talk, but Alisaie will talk to him nonetheless. She apologizes for not visiting enough. They promised to visit him together with Alphinuad, but that hasn't happened just yet. With the three of us together like this, it is quite reminiscent of that night where we sat at the cliff's edge, looking heavensward towards the countless stars in the skies, sharing stories and talking about the future. Back then she was feeling quite low and powerless, but she always knew that her brother was close by if she needed him, that the others would be waiting for her back at the Rising Stone. But now nobody is. She has seen her share of trouble since coming to Eorzea. Time and time again she has been reminded about her limitations, of how little she could truly change about the world, and she has come to know the sorrow of parting all too well. But to have the people that she holds dear struck down right before her very eyes, and to be completely powerless to help them, that is something that she cannot bear. We remind her that she does not have to bear this burden alone. We are still with her, and for that she is grateful. She wouldn't know what to do without us. Our words have given her some comfort. She has had enough brooding for today. Let us go. It is time to save our friends. For now, we should try to think outside of the box to figure out how we can save our friends. Normally, we would look towards our own experts, but they are both stricken. She will reach out to all the guild and research institutions she can find. She'll even use the connections created by Minfilia and Louis Soir. Mark my words, we will find a way to save everyone. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, we can see Varys with Zenos standing behind him. They are both looking towards the throne. Zenos tells him that the Populares are no longer an obstacle. It is time to bring out the Emperor's might. All it would take is one word, and the Imperial army will attack Ala Mhigo. But Varys will not answer. He has no words for him. Even though Elidibus has worked tirelessly to improve their cause, with this flesh at his disposal, he could even destroy the Icon Slayer. And yet he still hesitates. The enemy is resourceful. Though victory is certain now, it will not remain so. If he wastes time thinking about it, there may never be an opening like this again. He will speak to his father again, once he is no longer filled with doubt. Zenos takes his leave. Varys lets out a deep sigh, but then an unknown man who was watching from behind the throne proclaims that he should be the one to sigh. He steps out to reveal a man who is dressed in a Garlean military cloak, donned with the gold crest and fur around the trimmings. He is clearly displeased with the way Varys has been running the Empire. He had already played his part to perfection. He had earned his rest, and then thanks to La Habrea's crowning act of idiocy, our favorite emissary sees fit to summon him back. He walks towards Varys and sits on the step that leads towards the throne. Varys continues to hold his tongue. No matter, he has grown tired of this performance. The unknown man continues on. Now, my dearest grandson, let me remind you of your place in the most simplest of terms. He does not make judgments, instead he administers them, swiftly and to the letter. Nothing else is his concern. Varys grits his teeth in anger, but before he can do or say anything, he is interrupted. If aught threatens the balance between light and dark, it falls to Varys to remove it, be it by his own hands or his armies. That is why Garlemald exists, and that is why he built it. This isn't just some unknown man, but it is the first Emperor of Garlemald, the Solus Zos Galvus, who we had thought to be dead this whole time. Solus takes pity on Varys. He is probably better not knowing the truth of the Empire. As they say, ignorance is bliss, but now he can never forget. The founding father was an Ascian. He created the Empire, solely for the purpose of sowing the seeds of chaos. To bring about a calamity requires no small amount of power, and there is no surer way to obtain that power than by collecting powerful pawns. To that end, he has labored. Before he can continue his sentence, the sound of a gunshot echoes throughout the throne room. Varys has fired a gun at Solis. His lifeless body falls to the floor and slowly rolls down the throne room steps. Varys looks towards the lifeless corpse, regarding it with such scorn. You fiends are often fond of hearing your own voice. Mark me, Ascian. Man is the master of their own destiny. Unsurprisingly, the gun did absolutely nothing. Solis just sighs. That was a complete waste of energy. Unless he has forgotten, he is now the Emperor. If he wants to rant about man's destiny, then he should save it for the masses. It will give them a sense of purpose. Ours is a struggle to restore both mankind and the world to their rightful state. Our goals are one and the same. All Varys can do is stare at him as he leaves the throne room, unable and incapable of doing anything except be a puppet for Solis Zos Galvus, the first Emperor of Garlemald, and one of the Convocation. Meanwhile, in the Resistance encampment, somewhere in the Empire, we can see Alphinuad walking with the Shadow Hunter and his comrades. When they arrive at the encampment, they can see that it is bereft of life. There are lifeless corpses strewn across the floor. Everywhere the eye can see, there is death. They have all died, yet there are no wounds, no evidence of battle, and not a single one lives. What in the world could have caused this? It seems like the Shadow Hunter knows. The Empire developed an alchemical weapon in Girabania that is known as the Black Rose. It is a gas, and if you were to breathe it, it would be your last. The project was thought abandoned, and everything that remained was destroyed, but nothing else in this world could have wrought such an atrocity. Fools! What do they hope to gain with this butchery? Can they not see that a rule won through terror will not endure? How many more provinces must they lose? This was not the work of men, but of Ascians. It cannot be a coincidence that their trail led them here. Their objective was never to rule, but to sow strife and discord. Such a crime does indeed bear the mark of the bringers of chaos. The Black Rose cannot be allowed to kill again. We must find the Ascians and put an end to their plot. And that is why they work. The Shadow Hunter will keep doing what he can to stop the Ascians and whatever schemes they have planned for the inhabitants of Eorzea.